Hello, and welcome to We Live for Saturday, your favorite college football podcast. I'm your co-host, Mike, and with me, as always, is your other co-host, John. But John, today we have a really awesome guest, and my buddy, Luscion. Luscion, so great to have you on the show. Luscion is an Alabama fan who lives in Columbus, Ohio. So he's got an interesting perspective on things. And this is our, I'll let the audience know, this is our Big Ten SEC show. So we're going to talk different Big Ten SEC offseason issues. Obviously, this is a Big Ten football podcast, and Luscion does a lot of SEC centric, Alabama centric, especially podcasting of his own. So Luscion, so great to have you on the show, man. So great to see you again. I haven't seen you in a few months. So you're looking good, sir. And tell us a little bit about, your background, both as a podcaster, but also just as a college football fan.
Well, I'm in my late 30s. So, I came up in the era of watching actual hard-nosed defenses, running the football, playing hard in the trenches, actually playing defense, not getting all too cute with it. But I've come around, as being an Alabama fan with what Nick Saban did later in his career with Lane Kiffin and actually revolutionized the offense. So I am actually a well-rounded football fan. I've been in the podcast game for probably about 5 years now. I've run my own network now. This is coming into my second year. I just love talking college football and sports in general. So I like to have a good time, but I do my research on everything. So it's not just an SEC-based opinion. This is actually a statistical guy you're going to get tonight. So I'm excited to be here, talk some football with my guy Mike and John. So I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, me too. And Luscion does bring the he's a heavy hitter when it comes to the preparation. So I know that from his work. And Luscion, just tell us, where is your network? Where can people find your work so they can go subscribe to it?
Okay, so we just changed the name and everything, but it's ABTC_net SP00 on X, and it's the same thing on YouTube. I'll be plugging that at the end of the show. I'll see if I can get a link going. But
yeah,
we changed the name, got some different sponsors, different people. We're going to got some new content coming, so I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah. Super exciting. I'm excited to check that stuff out, and yeah, we'll get a link for that from you, Luscion. We'll make sure to put that in the episode description so people can get right to your work and subscribe to it. It's some really good stuff. I think about after the Auburn game, I watched some of your reactions, and it was entertaining, to say the least.
Yeah. Some people wanted me to let it fly because they were in that mood too. And I wasn't wrong on anything I said, and I stand by it. And some people didn't like me for it, and some people praised me for it. That's why I'm coming back heavy hitting, because they wanted it again. So
you were proven right in the playoff. Like, you are an Alabama fan, but you saw the holes, I think, in last year's team. And I think you kind of foreshadowed what was going to happen a little bit.
I did it with the year before too, and people were like, "No, you're not being optimistic." It's like, listen, if you know ball, you know ball. You can see holes.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't do anything to fix that problem, and obviously teams are going to expose that when you get later on in the season, because there's this thing called film that everybody watches. So if I'm seeing it, obviously people that are getting paid millions of dollars are going to see it. So
yeah, absolutely, right on. All right. Well, let's jump right into it then, gentlemen, and let's talk about this Brett McMurphy article. It's the newest thing in On3, and he said, it's basically an article saying that the SEC is no longer king. So, quote, "The mighty SEC has literally fallen and it can't get up. With South Carolina's loss to UCLA in Sunday's women's Final Four game, this marks the first time in 9 years an SEC team did not win a national championship in football or men's or women's basketball. These things are cyclical, but this recent cycle, no matter how you spin it, has not been great, especially in the sport that really, really does just mean more to the SEC. A few months ago, the SEC experienced a brutal bowl season, and The SEC's 2-8 bowl record, excluding 2 SEC versus SEC games, was not only the worst in league history, but the SEC was favored to win 7 of those 10 games. And what's more troubling is the SEC's lack of success in the playoffs, having gone 3 years without a national football championship. For most leagues, a 3-year national title drought's no cause for concern, but not the SEC. SEC teams from in the period before the last 3 years won 13 national titles in 17 years. Then something funny happened. The start of NIL payments has coincided with the end of SEC's dominance and the Big Ten's rise, with 3 consecutive national titles by Michigan, Ohio State, and Indiana. So I'm just curious, Luscion, that's a little bit to digest. What are your reactions to that, to where the SEC is in comparison going into 2026 and what we've seen the last couple of years?
I had to read the article a couple of times and actually hear some video, because I was trying to get an equalized footing on where he was coming from. And he's not wrong in anything he said. Obviously, he's a very factual guy. He's worked with some very reputable people and has been able to draw his opinion that the SEC is no longer king. And I would wager that we don't think of it like that in the SEC.
Right.
Now, everybody else in college football might think of it as that type of thing, but I don't think, as an SEC guy, I really think of us as being king of college football. That's not really something that really enters our minds. Now, if he wants to go ahead and try to get some rise out of, I guarantee you there's some Alabama fans that are going at its throat right now that are being like, oh, no, it's not true. So definitely some Georgia fans, and just because that's how they are. And especially in these LSU fans, now that they've gotten, the highest checkbook in NIL, they're going to think that they can do something about that. But the fact of the matter remains is we have, again, cannibalized ourselves throughout the regular season, to the point that by the end of the season, we're so beat to crap that we try to go and basically prove something that we're not really sure we have to prove. And other teams have watched us beat up on each other all season, so they know what we're going to do. And I feel like sometimes the offensive coordinators have gotten stagnant to the point to where they're not, for lack of a better word, imaginative. They just get stuck in habits, and that's how they get beat. And I think sometimes, especially with this age of football, kids get not necessarily lazy, but kind of annoyed and kind of just like, it's football. They're not as hungry as they were. Plus, it's a longer season. So I kind of feel like there's a lot of different factors that play into football than just being the king of college football, as he said. But he's not wrong. I mean, I didn't react to it. I mean, everybody has an opinion. I mean, he's a very reputable guy, so obviously he's got a standpoint. I'm not going to give him rage bait on it, because he really didn't say anything that wasn't true. I mean, if you know me, I harp on our team probably worse than some of the coaches do, and he's not wrong. LSU's been weak. Ole Miss, actually proved something. But other than that, we all know how I feel about Auburn and any orange school. They really haven't performed well.
Florida struggled.
And we're not even going to talk about Florida, because they haven't been anything in like more than a decade. Texas, hopefully, now that they have some wide receivers, maybe. Still not sure what the defense is going to look like, but, he's not wrong. And I hope SEC schools take it as a thing like, okay, let's go prove this shit and actually go be the hunter for once. Because if you get a whole bunch of SEC schools hungry, especially with a 9-game conference season, and you don't have to worry about out of conference, that kind of lackadaisical game that, we got to play these guys, but it really doesn't matter. And then you take that out and you put another game that does matter. I think you put a little bit more competitiveness into college football.
Yeah, no, I know John and I are really excited about the SEC finally going to 9 conference games. You could say it's been our hobby horse to hit on the SEC for not playing as many conference games as the Big Ten. But, I think you hit on something, though, Luscion, that I think, and John, I want to obviously get your reaction in a second. But for me, as much as the Big Ten is on top and deserves to be on top right now and has won those titles and among different programs and has excelled not just at the very top, but also in like the high, middle, and bowl games and, you know, playoff games and whatnot the last few years. But at the same time, the SEC isn't going away.
Mm-mm.
You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be Big Ten and SEC teams because they have the decided talent advantage, because they have the decided financial advantage. So, like, I think, you know, they're going to say, is the SEC, and we're going to argue every year. We're going to argue Big Ten is king because they are just on top. The SEC's is king because of this. But, like, it's going to be that same argument, I feel like, perennially going forward. And I don't think either conference is going to get so far ahead of the other anymore. I think that kind of the new thing is parity. I think the total, you know, the really lopsided talent acquisition, I think, is something of the past now that everybody's paying. Yeah. So John, what do you think?
No, I agree. I think I guess I'll start with you. What you kind of piggybacking off of what you just said, Mike, is I do agree. I think that the SEC and the Big Ten, you know, more or less are going to be on pretty even ground. Obviously varying from year to year. It could be the SEC, it could be the Big Ten, but I think that it's going to be a lot of that back and forth, which I think is good for the sport. I think it's good that, you know, like we talked about, like we've been talking about, and not just here in the Big Ten country, but I think, you know, everywhere a lot of people have been clamoring for parity across the board, and it's made the sport better. And anyone now who's like, you know, pining for the old days, like I understand wanting maybe your glory days or having it being a little bit easier, as it might have been at one point in time for, you know, a multitude of reasons. Like you long for that, you know, that feeling, but because you're not comfortable with the fear of maybe I'm going to lose now. Maybe there are teams out there that I didn't see as threats before that now are, because, you know, the floor has been raised across the board, which is like I said, which is a good thing. So I like that. I think it's good for both conferences. I actually believe, in which we'll talk more about, obviously, the commissioners, but I think the commissioners and the people in power calling the shots are probably in favor of it as well. Because they know that, you know, and well, obviously the TV networks are loving it. So, which is more leading into things that we will speak about later. But I also, Luscion, I liked what you were talking about, how I'm curious, like with you kind of mentioned a little bit, and tell me if I'm wrong here, the attitude of like being a little lackadaisical with the SEC and maybe teams that for so many years were used to dominating everybody over and over and over again, that maybe there was like a lack of maybe not just the players, like expecting to just always be good and not put forth the effort, and maybe even the coaches as well. I mean, do you think that kind of permeated throughout a lot of the SEC, and why that kind of became that way? Like they bought into their own, you know, for lack of a better word, bullshit, I guess.
I think a lot of that has to do with the mentality of players that came through, with a lot of the old school fans like me that have been fans for a long time that know football. And then you have a complete division, and I'm sure you guys see this at your respective schools too. You have this new age of fan that has just, for lack of a better word, like you said, piggybacked on a school's success, that don't understand what it took to build the dynasty, what they were like. They just see the success. They've seen a couple of these recent championships, and they're just like, oh, so this is just how it is. And they're just assuming it's supposed to be like that.
Yeah.
So when the actual guys that know ball and can talk ball see something and call it out, and the multitudes of the fan on social media will jump down their throats like, oh, you're just being negative. You're not like being open-minded. No, we see a problem. And that's not how you win football games. If your offensive line is having holes in the earlier part of the season and you don't fix that, it's obviously going to be a problem going forward. That's not us being petty. That's not us being judgmental. That's us being statistical and just knowing football. So I think a lot of this has to do with fans' lack of knowledge when it comes to actually knowing football. And I know that's why me and Mike, we're so statistically sound on the morning show because we wanted to actually educate people to better understand football, because if you understand it more, you're not going to draw these crazy ass conclusions that we all see on social media. Sometimes you're just like, how do you even see that if you're watching the game? And I know everybody from every fan base can attest to this, because I see it all the time with Bama fans. It's like, where do you, like, seriously? And I try to be very open-minded, and sometimes I'm just like, I don't even know what to say. And it's a lot of college football.
Yeah. So Luscion, I think you hit on something really interesting and talking about sort of the negative fan impact. And something else Brett McMurphy hit on in that article was that the SEC has had, when Nick Saban was there, had more coaching turnover than other conferences. More coaches got fired, and they got fired more quickly than they did in other leagues. So maybe some great coaches were not allowed the time that they maybe needed to build a program. And because of that constant reset, at the same time, you have guys, in the Big Ten. I mean, I know he's gone now, but you had James Franklin at Penn State forever. You've had Ryan Day at Ohio State for a while. You've had the Kirk Ferences and the PJ Flex and the guys who are there who are at programs long enough to learn what the weaknesses are and how to get around them and how to build the program up, and have been through different cycles and also have more and more chances in recruiting every year to get the kind of guys they actually want, versus when you're going through the coaching churn and you're getting rid of a coach every 2 or 3 years. Your coach never has a roster he fully wants because it's not a roster that's fully his. So I wonder if some of that impatience has led to, maybe, like you said, better postseason coaching from the Big Ten, maybe, than we've seen from the SEC in the last couple of years.
But at the same time, as Saban was getting coaches fired, his coaching staff was getting poached.
Yes.
Because all of his assistant coaches are scattered around college football and have created their own type of dynasties.
Yep.
So it was a double-edged sword. Actually, it didn't really help us out at all, because we lost coaches and got other coaches fired, which may have kept other schools down. But at the same time, it helped the rest of college football out, because they got a fantastic coach who had a great teacher on what it takes to actually win a national championship and run a successful program that doesn't allow for nonsense. And that's something that I think is overlooked from all of his assistant coaches. None of these coaches allow their players to just act a fool in any certain way. And I think that's one of the best ways that they show respect to Nick Saban, because if you stepped out of line with him, oh God, it was bad. And I've talked to a lot of former players that, like, you missed class and it was like, oh, it was bad.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've seen what the Nick Saban assistants have done. We've seen what the Kirby Smarts and the Steve Steve Sarkisian.
Well, I don't know if George is the best example personally, but I mean, as far as
now,
we're not. We're not. I may or may not have a running ticker on how many speeding acquisitions that Georgia has. Now, other than the state of Georgia, outside the state of Georgia, Oregon, Indiana, Ohio, they're good.
Yes,
they're really good.
It's
great coaches.
Yes,
I just am not sure what. We don't know. We don't talk about Georgia now.
We don't have to. I'm fine with that.
No, we don't. And I do think that the Kirby Smart thing is reckless, and college football should come down on him for letting his players continue to have that culture. I mean, people have died. People have literally died.
Yeah,
like
he
should have been censored at some point.
I'm just not sure how they just keep on getting away with it.
It's crazy.
It's
crazy.
It's wild.
Yeah, and it's like more people are is it gonna take? How many people are gonna have to die? How many people have to get hurt?
There was a running time at one point in the last couple of years where we had like a ticker with, okay, joke's on us. Another Georgia fan got pulled over the weekend. But it wasn't a joke. It was like legitimately like 23 out of like 27 days they like had somebody get in trouble. And it's like, bro,
and not fans. We're talking players.
Yeah, we're talking guys that play football.
Yeah,
they're a menace to society. Yeah, that needs to change. But sorry to get us sidetracked. My apologies. We can go back to talking about football. But I just like, but other than that, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, like there's a standard that Saban would set, and you can see it in his assistants. Yeah. And we also need to take into consideration that Saban is an anomaly. He's for I think as far as head coaches go anywhere, not just in college football. He's could be like the best that ever did, and who knows, maybe ever will. But he's definitely produced fantastic products as far as allowing other coaches to go and continue his legacy, I guess. So I think I'm very interested to see like where you think, I guess, the SEC goes from here to kind of get, I guess, reclaim that title, if you will. And like we said, I assume anyways, it's kind of probably going to go back and forth. Like the SEC is of course going to win another national championship, probably sooner than
later.
Yeah. So, but what do you think it's going to take to kind of reclaim that?
I think it's going to take the right coaches in the right situations. Now, I say that, and a lot of people are going to be like, well, some coaches get lucky and just fall into situations. And that's exactly it. They get lucky and fall into the perfect situation. To have a successful program, you have to be in the perfect situation. Now, you can help create that situation with coaching hires, acquisitions, NIL, and recruiting. But some coaches literally fall into the perfect type of environment, a school that's been hurting, that's hungry for success, a school that is absolutely rebuilding from shambles. So you get a guy that is just absolutely just a tactician on how he wants to do that. You get a guy that is basically replacing the most iconic dude in the sport, who has had success in rebuilding programs quickly, but he has to have his personnel. And sometimes that takes a year or two to kind of siphon those old players out and get them to graduate, which I think that's the position that Alabama's in. Now, some of the other teams in the SEC, I think it's just on account of their younger players or their older players going into the NFL and getting their younger players caught up to speed. Because like you said, in the NIL deal, transfer portal, you're going to lose talent. So you have to bring these younger guys along a lot faster than a lot of these college programs were equipped to do in the past. Now that everyone has kind of seen what it takes, I think you're going to see the SEC be a little bit more competitive. Obviously, like you guys have, we're going to have our teams that are just absolute dog shit, for the lack of a way to say it, because they just can't get over the hump. Or
you need to have a few programs struggle for everybody else to not go, like you said, with the depth of both the Big Ten and the SEC. That's the problem, though. There's fewer and fewer of those programs. The vast majority of the programs, the Big Ten and the SEC at this point, are pretty well run. So like it's the margins get smaller, I feel like, with more parity. It's not enough. Kirby Smart can't be 8 deep on the defensive line anymore. He has to actually outcoach people, and stuff like that. Oh, and we don't have to go deep into Florida, but can I just say Florida should have never fired Dan Mullen. That was stupid. Dan Mullen could coach. That's my personal opinion. I know they're like, oh, he's not Urban Meyer. Okay, he's not, but he's like pretty good.
He couldn't get a quarterback, and he needs a quarterback to be successful. And for some reason, no quarterback wanted to go to Florida, and
which is wild at that, especially when he was coaching there.
No, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's crazy. They didn't have any receivers, though.
It's crazy that Florida hasn't been able to leverage the Urban Meyer era for more success since the Urban Meyer era. Like it's like Florida and USC, man. Florida and USC, like mysteries to me.
They can't get players to stay at home. All the Florida players are either going to Georgia, Ohio State, or somewhere up north, Oregon, or Texas. And the same thing with California kids. Like, most of our stars come from California. To be honest, Bryce Young, Najee Harris, seriously, we Dijon Lee, Xavier Brown, like we have a corner pipeline that's straight from California.
Interesting.
So they're not staying at home.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that is an interesting thought. And John and I have our own feelings about USC and how they recruit and why they come up short despite the way they recruit.
Yeah.
But they're soft, Lucian. The short version is they're soft. But yeah.
Well, we got one of their defensive linemen, and he's looking pretty good for us. So I'm pretty excited.
I know he wanted out of there because he was tough, and they're soft. He wanted out.
That's kind of what he said in so many words. I've heard that he just wanted to actually play football with some actual mean dudes.
Yeah.
So well, that kind of says something about USC. But then again, it's a Lincoln Riley led team, and we all know that Lincoln Riley is pretty soft.
Yeah, he wants to play it on the sidelines. He doesn't want to play it in the middle of the field. Sorry, John, go ahead.
Well, I mean, that's why we've always been saying with USC, we're like, the call is coming from inside the house because they love to blame their players. Yeah. And we're like, it's not your players. You got talent. You got a lot of talent.
Yeah.
It's the call is coming from inside the house, guys.
Yeah.
So
100%.
The coaches more often than not, for sure. So that brings us. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that's why all your number one California players like Chris Henry and like Dijon Lee, like the number one corner and a couple of tackles, like they're not staying at home. They're going to Oregon, Ohio State, Bama, Indiana, Texas, Georgia. But you know what the place they're not going? USC or UCLA.
Yeah. Well, we know they're not going to UCLA. We know that much.
You might even see them go to Texas Tech or like what's that? BYU's getting a lot of Cal guys. It's like, dude, like,
BYU's got that crumble cookie money, baby. Crumble cookies. All right. I mean, I'm not even kidding. That wasn't even a joke. That's a literal. That's a true thing.
It's a real thing.
That's how they kept Kalani Sitake from going to Penn State.
I know. It's crazy.
So anyway, let's shift gears here and talk about Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti and SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey. And let's start with Sankey. And I just want to say, and I'll leave it to you. I'll throw it to you, Lucian. But I'll just say, when he made up fake stats for the committee, when he took like everyone has the normal stats, but he made up like very skewed and had like a booklet and was like, here's the college football playoff committee. Here's why we're superior to everyone else. I thought that was I thought that was a clown show, like an actual clown car. Like, what are we doing? I thought that was silly. So you can take this anywhere you want, Lucian. How do you feel about Greg Sankey? Good, bad, or indifferent?
I don't really like to comment on the presidential type of positions in football.
Okay.
I'm a field guy, and I like to not comment on what the front office is doing.
Okay.
I will say that he has what he thinks is the best opinion and plan for the SEC going forward. He has the best plan that he thinks is best for going forward. And he has his supporters, and I know he has his defectors. I'm not going to say because I have not looked into it enough, nor do I actually care enough to look into it on what two guys are fighting, like two West Side Story, this old school gangster type of opinionated dudes, like
the Sharks and the Jets, man. Yeah.
For lack of an opinion, like for lack of a better way to put it, it's like, bro, like you guys gonna have a dance off or a knife fight to see who wins this? Because I really don't like talking about it. Like people ask me this question a lot, and it's like, what do you want me to say? Like, both of them think they're right. I can't do anything about it. You can't do anything about it. They're going to eventually have to make a decision.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling it's probably not going to be the best decision. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
It might be others' opinions too.
Yeah.
But sometimes you need a change.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying I know what that change is.
Sure.
But I'm definitely saying that I doubt these two do know either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's just what I'm saying.
Fair.
I
John,
respect
your
that.
thoughts?
No, I absolutely respect that. I think it's fair. You know, we here on We Live for Saturday definitely take shots not only at Sankey, believe it or not. We've gone in on Tony Petitti, and I think we're going to do that.
Oh,
here
and
as
I'm
well.
gonna again.
Yeah, and we're
I'm
going
gonna
to
go
again.
in on him a little bit.
Yeah, you know, and I do. I like what you said about how, like, you know, both of these guys probably don't know. Like, yeah, they get paid a ton of money. Yes, they know a lot about the business of college football. No doubt about that. But I don't know. Again, just like we've seen so much of the changes recently with college football, do they really have the fans in mind? And therefore, and that's you, that's me, that's Mike, that's us. You know, and is it does it serve our best interest? Probably not. It serves their pocket and the TV networks and those, and so that's who they're working for, and we know that. And you know, I think that, you know, Sankey, of course, you know, I'm with you, Mike. I think that, you know, what he did there was absolutely ridiculous. But also, you know,
He's trying to say they should get 7 teams in.
Yeah,
7.
I know.
And then they went 2-8 in the bowl. It was,
yeah. but also, but what I do, and Mike and I have talked about this as well many times, of like, but what Sankey does that we wish Petitti did more of is beat that SEC drum. Whether it's real or not, or it's inflated or whatever, like, he is pushing the agenda 24/7, and he is out there. He is campaigning. He's on networks. He's on podcasts. He's whatever. He's doing that job like he should. That's what he's hired to do.
Exactly.
Right? You know, whether you agree with it or not, he's doing it, and he's doing it right, and he's doing a good job. You know, as far as like that aspect of it, I should say. I'm not saying all of the choices he's making are great for everybody, but you know what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Where Petitti, I mean, he, you know, we've been told many times by other people, like, he's a behind the scenes guy, and like, okay, you know, he's a network TV guy. He came from, you know, baseball, the MLB, blah 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 blah. Cool. That means he's got a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience about how to run this kind of stuff from the TV aspect of things, and great, awesome, cool. He's got a lot of connections behind the scenes, but we need to see you up there, man. You now, like, just like what this Brett McMurphy article just went out and said about how the Big Ten is dominating, winning all of these national championships. Where are you? Why aren't you beating that drum?
Every podcast, every TV show, ESPN, you should be on the Big Ten network every week. You should be on Fox every week. You should be out there saying 3 consecutive national titles. Look at our winning percentages in the playoffs. Look at what we're doing in bowl season. Look at what we're doing in other sports. Big Ten, you know what I mean? Like, Tony Petitti should be doing what Greg Sankey is doing. He should be I'm not saying he should be making up statistics, but he should be really hitting home the ones that do exist.
Well, because, you know, just like Sankey would be doing that if
Sankey absolutely would be doing that, because he understands it. And you know who else would be doing it? Former Big Ten Commissioner Jim Delaney, because he understood how the game was played. That was the last time we had a guy in the Big Ten that I thought was like doing what he was supposed to be doing. And so, Tony Petitti, I mean, Indiana wins, goes 16-0, 3rd consecutive, 3 Big Ten titles in 3 years with 3 different programs. And Tony Petitti's been a ghost.
Yeah, he's nowhere.
He's been a ghost. And it's unacceptable. Like, I don't know what he thought he was signing up for, but it's not good enough. And if it's not going to be him, then you have to hire someone to be like Tony Petitti's assistant who goes on shows all the time. And you know what I mean?
Like your press secretary, or I don't know.
Yeah, it's a press secretary. That's exactly it. That's exactly what he needs. He needs a press secretary to get out there and pound the pavement and spread the gospel. And I just don't understand. It's like the Big Ten, man, Luscion, the Big Ten does this thing where they think they're above it all, and we're academic, and we don't have to care about the little people, and blah blah. And it's like, no, you do. You actually do, and you have to shape public perception, or else the other side will do it for you. Because they have ESPN, and ESPN has the whole playoff, and so they get more input on people's perceptions than anyone else does.
They set the narrative every year.
Yes,
every year,
because they have control of the playoff. And that's why, you know, I encourage, and I think, you know, John and I were saying the media deals that the Big Ten media partners like Fox and CBS need to be broadcasting more of the playoff games. So that it's not just the ESPN. And I think that'd be better for everyone, in the sense that you get it more widely, more eyeballs on it by having it spread out more anyway in like how you view it. I don't know. I just, well.
So your thoughts on Tony Petitti, quick though, Luscion. What do you think? I know you don't want to speak on Greg.
No, he doesn't want to do it, John. He doesn't want to talk about it. He gave us what we wanted.
I mean, like I said, it's like two old school gangsters trying to like hold on to something that they think is right.
Yeah.
And I will say that a lot of the shots I see on X and at podcasts is that your commissioner doesn't have any stones to do the right thing for what's actually good for the Big Ten. And I'm going to say that's what I see, and I agree with you guys that you should have somebody that's pounding the drum that is he's representing, because why else are you doing the job?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. That's part of it.
Like, why are you there?
Yep.
It's like
you have to have pride in what you're doing.
It's like a movie star, man. They're not paying you a bunch of money because you act in the movie. They're paying you a bunch of money because you're going on the press junket and you're going to spend a month and a half doing interviews saying how great it was working on that movie. That's what they're paying.
Exactly.
Yep.
So like Tony Petiti, it's not just making the TV deals. That's not what they're paying you for. They're paying you for shaping the public perception. Way. Yeah. Anyway, we can move on from that.
Yes.
Luscion, let's talk. I'm excited about this part of it. Let's talk Kalen DeBoer. So, obviously made the playoff, kind of limped into it, then had a nice win against Oklahoma, looked really good doing that. And then obviously the debacle in the Rose Bowl against Indiana had to have left just a terrible taste in your mouth. So 2 years in, how do you feel about Kalen DeBoer? Where do you think his program is going? Do you think he's the guy to win another national title at Alabama?
I'm going to stand by what I said when I originally met the guy. When he first came in, I actually went down there for A-Day weekend, which was today this year. I went down there for his first A-Day. I met him. I met most of the coaching staff that is still there today. And I got a vibe from him that said that he's a very competitive guy. He knows the game. He respects ball. And the most important thing, he respects the evolution of football, which is not very common in most college football coaches, especially in this day and age. Everybody, I'll say this. Most fans, when they talk about and they think about Kalen DeBoer, they react to him as if this is a normal coaching job, as if this is just a normal job that a guy that come in that had success, that put his team in the second year in the national championship, in the Big Ten championship game. He took a job succeeding a guy that made college football the most iconic sport on the planet for almost 2 decades. Whether he was winning the games or he was defending the games or he was being talked about, college football was the number one sport for 20 years. And I know a lot of fans expected the guy that came in to succeed him would have immediate success. That's freaking absolutely delusional, especially when 43% of the roster just up and leaves,
right?
Which a lot of people forget too. Yeah. So when half your roster leaves,
including Julian Sayin,
right? Well, that's a different story. He actually was told that he wasn't going to be able to play in the system because of his height.
Oh, interesting. Huh. Okay. So I love you, Luscion. You've always got the inside track, but go on.
But it was more the fact that a lot of players that were in Saban's system left. They defected. So he had half a team. Then he had basically January when he got hired to the spring ball to basically form a team. And then that summer to get ready to go play an SEC football schedule. And for the first year, I'd say he did pretty damn good, even though fans are like, oh, we expected this. You're delusional if you think that's going to happen. And in year 2 is when he actually got his footing, actually got a full season to recruit and actually set in the program the ways that he wanted things to work. So technically last year, as I put it, would be his first season as an Alabama football coach, because he was just playing catch up in year 1, technically being hired after most of the recruiting has been done, because everybody committed in everybody early commits. He got hired, I think it was January 13th or 14th. So he had already, most people have already gone through that process and committed, so he didn't have that chance. So last season, he actually had a full season under his belt to actually get the program in. He still had some coaches on the roster that he wasn't sure about. He wasn't sure if they could actually produce what he was looking for in his respected scheme. And obviously we saw last year the offensive line coach that they brought in wasn't it. Brings in a new guy, brings in a couple of new coaches to improve upon what his actual scheme is. And I think this year, with the changes in personnel and the body types that they've got and where they've been successful in the transfer portal in recruiting, I think this year you're actually going to see Kalen DeBoer very successful in the way Alabama goes about its business. And I think you're going to see a pass rush that you haven't seen in a while, and I think you're going to see a run game that's going to surprise people. I'm actually very excited for this team because I studied Kalen DeBoer. I know what his message is. I know where he comes from. I know what he's been able to do at programs. Now with this top-tier talent he had to get the right coaches in to mold these players into what he wanted them to be on the offense. And the same thing is true on the defense with Kane Womack. He had a whole bunch of upperclassmen leftover Nick Saban guys that were about that Saban 3-4 defense. This is not the defense. The swarm defense is a way different defense, way different calls, way different positionings, and way different body types. And he had to acclimate these players that were set in their ways. And a lot of times that creates a lot of friction in creating a scheme. Fast forward in year 2, Kane's got all his guys. He went out and personally plucked who he wanted to be successful in his scheme. So we're about to see in this team what Alabama's truly about this season going forward.
Love that.
Yeah, no, that sounds. And look, we know Kalen DeBoer wins.
Oh yeah.
What was he like before the Bama job? He was like 154 and 10 or something, or 12 or something. I mean, it was stupid.
Yeah.
Like he was winning, like he was losing like not like one game a year, essentially. For his entire career, which is just, and at lower levels of football at different jobs where, he didn't have all the advantages you have at an Alabama. So I think, we know he's a winner. The question with Kalen DeBoer is always, can he commit to the running game? Because he wants to throw the ball. He wants to get a little, I feel like it's almost, I'm not saying he's Lincoln Riley. I am not. Okay. But I am saying that, you said they're going to commit more to the running game this year. I think that will pay a big dividends if Alabama, shows up and can really be physical and run the ball. That just opens everything up in the offense.
That's how you have to win in the SEC because teams' secondary nowadays are too good, and they will be able to fixate on what you're doing if you don't have a successful run game. You have to force those safeties into the box to give your out wide guys one-on-one opportunities, because or else they're just going to sit out there in a cover 3 and just pick you off.
Yep. Yeah. Is it going to be Keelan Russell at quarterback?
In my opinion, it is Key Russ.
Okay.
Today he showed out in the spring game.
Yeah, I was going to say you just had the spring game. So any thoughts on that?
From what everybody's saying, that it is probably Keely Russ time. If everything works out right, he keeps the kid's he's just special. He's got a way to see the football field. His just poise and his relaxation in the pocket is just truly impressive, especially for him only being a redshirt freshman. So I think going forward, they're probably not going to name a starter till fall camp just because they want to keep that competition. I know Austin Mack was banged up today, so he didn't have too much. He didn't have too good of a day, but he's still very much in the running, in my opinion. The kid's got
highly touted
arm.
guy also, yeah.
He's a monster. He's 6'6", and he can move. So both of these guys are going to give our offenses a good chance to be successful, no matter who it is. But in my opinion, I do think it's going to be Keelan Russell.
Okay.
All right. Very cool.
No, I like your outlook on things. Is what, again, just in general as a college football fan, the fact that you knew this was going to take time, and how do you follow Nick Saban, man? I mean,
the only way you were going to have continuity is if you hired from within. But as you said, Luscion, all of your best coaches got plucked, so there wasn't anyone left to hire from within that you thought could be at that level.
No. Absolutely not.
Yeah. So it was going to be, you were going to be starting over to some extent. and it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, I'm excited to see Alabama play this year
Mm-hmm.
as well. Lucian, John and I are both Gopher fans. We've got a home and home with Alabama scheduled for 2032 and 33. So if that happens, we'll see you then. But
Definitely. If it happens.
If it happens,
Right,
happens, I'm going to go to the game because that's a stadium
absolutely.
I've always wanted to go to a game at Alabama for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about, we've got one of the things with the Big Ten and the SEC kind of dominating the college football universe now is that the games they play against each other seem more important. They all seem like you've got that kind of edge on the line of which, conference is better at the top, which conference is better in the high middle, which conference is deepest through it. You know what I mean? It kind of doesn't matter who's playing. It feels like there's a lot on the line, especially in these out of conference games, because let's be real, what happens in September shapes how we talk about the sport all year.
Mm-hmm.
You think about how much did Ohio State benefit from beating Texas to start last year? Like immensely. And that ultimately kept Texas out of the playoff, losing that game. So these are big games with big implications that are going to be season long. So I'm excited about it. We have the 3 games we have to talk about are Mississippi State at Minnesota, and they're actually all the same week. They're all in week 2. September 12th, 2026. Mississippi State at Minnesota, Oklahoma at Michigan, and Ohio State at Texas. So being as we are Gopher fans, we're going to take our game first because I felt like doing that. And the way I decided to frame this, Lucian, is Bill Connolly over at ESPN is not – we've talked about I don't think his work is quite as great as it once was, but his SP Plus rankings are still about as good as it gets, I think, when it comes to, because they give you an idea both of returning production and also, he projects recruiting and takes, your history on the field of the last 5 years and all that stuff and tries to weigh them against each other to, rank how good every team is in comparison to every other team in college football. So I'm going to use his SP Plus rankings because I figure that's about as good as anything right now to discuss these games. So for Minnesota, or for Mississippi State, I should say, they are the 52nd projected overall team by SP Plus, 41st on offense, but only 76th on defense. By contrast, the Gophers are 45th overall, so a little better, but not that, it's not crazy. There's 7 spots better. 71st on offense, so the offense, what is projected to come back isn't as good, but Gophers top 25 defense ranked 24th on defense. So these strengths are really a contrast. Mississippi State, not surprisingly with Jeff Lebby, who came through Baylor and has that pedigree, they expect to score, but the defense, are they going to stop anybody? That's a question mark. Minnesota has an excellent defense, led by Anthony Smith coming back, the Big Ten's leading, sack leader from last year with 12.5 sacks, but has an offense that flat out needs to show improvement from last year. It's an offense that underperformed, mostly because, let's be real, the offensive line was bad last year. It was bad.
Yeah.
It's a bad offensive line. So it looks like for Mississippi State, the quarterback's going to be Camario Taylor. He was named the starter. He played the last couple games for Mississippi State and had like pretty good, but not amazing results. They were both losses. I think, his accuracy was not elite. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't elite. But wide receiver Brennan Thompson's very good. He had over 800 yards receiving last year. And at running back, they have both Fluff Bothwell, which is just a fun name to say, but he's kind of a dynamic guy, and Johnny Collins. So that's, what it looks like on Mississippi State side. Obviously, Minnesota, you're going to talk about that defense. You're going to talk about Anthony Smith. You're going to talk about Kerry Brown at safety. You're going to talk about Maverick Baranowski at linebacker and feel like Minnesota has playmakers at all 3 levels. John Nestor at corner, who, really came on strong and played, those last 6 games last year. Really other than the Ohio State game where he got outclassed like everybody else did. Nestor was pretty electric last year. And So that's interesting. And on the offensive side of the ball, we've got, redshirt freshman quarterback will now be a redshirt sophomore quarterback, Drake Lindsay, back for year 2 as the starter. And, PJ Fleck has said he expects Drake to take a big step forward. So has his offensive coordinator, Greg Harbaugh. The question is, how improved is Minnesota on the offensive line? Are they able to scare you at wide receiver at all this year? So, Luscion, what do you have? Any thoughts on this game, how it might play out, and who you might, in a way too early look, we reserve the right to change our minds on all these games, folks, because it's only April. But right now, where you're sitting, who do you think wins this game and why?
I think it depends on when the game's played.
On when?
I think that
okay.
I think all 3 of these games are barring time of when they're played. I think if it's a night game, Minnesota wins this football game.
Okay.
I think if it's a noon game, Mississippi State wins the football game. And here's why. Mississippi State has a way of coming out on fire early.
Okay.
And I don't know what it is. It might just be the energy that they give, but they're very pesky, especially the earlier the game. Now, the later going on the night, when teams are able to actually get loose and get ready, they tend to get hit a lot. So that's why I'm going to say if the game's past 4 and on, I think I like Minnesota in this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's an interesting. I like that take on it because I do. There is something about when it's a home game, those noon games, the crowd doesn't really get hot until the second quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So that first quarter, they're cheering and whatever, but it's not like you don't usually get, when it's a night game, that first snap, you can't hear yourself think.
Mm-hmm.
It's already that loud. The crowd is boozed up. It's ready to go. Whereas, at a noon game, people tailgated, but they're still drinking. And a lot of the tailgaters at Minnesota games, a lot of the tailgaters don't actually get to their seats until well into the first quarter, which drives me crazy sometimes. But that does happen in the early. You're right. The earlier the game is, the more we see that for sure. So that's a really interesting perspective. I didn't say I got to believe Minnesota finds a way to win this game at home. I respect Mississippi State. I think this early in the year, I think it's going to be really, I think it's going to be a close game. I do think Brennan Thompson is very good. I think that Mississippi State could scheme up some stuff early and have some success. But I also think that the strengths of this Minnesota defense, which should be the strength of the team, is that we have a lot of guys who can rush the passer. Minnesota led the Big Ten in sacks last year, brings everybody at back, also added TJ Bush from Cal, who's a really good defensive end who had a lot of sacks last year as well. So I think Minnesota can rush the passer. I'm bullish on Minnesota's DBs. And people think that's weird because we lost Coy Parrish to Oregon. But the thing is, Luscion, Coy Parrish was expensive. And he was making multiple millions of dollars. So we went out and got about 2 or 3 starters who were really good, not as great as he was athletically, but 2 or 3 guys who were more consistent from week to week, down to down in their past spots. Exactly. Yep. And so, and now that Kerry Brown's kind of the leader of that defense at DB, I do think, I think Minnesota eventually will adjust. And the difference in that game, I think, is that Minnesota has Darius Taylor. And Darius Taylor, when he's healthy, is as good as anybody in the big. Who do you take when he's healthy over him in the Big Ten at running back? Not a lot of guys.
I haven't seen any.
Yeah. So I feel like that game is going to be stressful. I know that I'm going to be probably going to have to take antacid because it sets up the whole season. You win that game, you're on pace, you're where you want to be. You lose that game, it's devastating for both teams. I think that's the difference for both teams, between trying to win 8 or 9 or 10 games and trying to make a bowl game. Could be winning or losing that game. It could be that big for both sides. So that's interesting too. John, what are your initial thoughts there?
No, I mean, I'm it's again, it really, for me, I'm not worried about the defense, to be honest with you. I think, in fact, overall, I think Minnesota's defense is going to be better.
Yeah.
Like you said, I know some of our rivals think that it's crazy to say something like that after losing Coy Parrish, but I think that we've put in the right pieces now. But yeah, it's the offensive line, man.
It's the offensive line. That's the question.
Yes, of course, we need to see a couple of receivers step up, but it's that O-line, dude. And if Callahan can't get that going, well, then that we're going to be in trouble, just like we were last year. So,
yeah, I like the Tennessee transfer. I think he's got a lot of upside, and if he's the answer at right tackle, Warren, then I think we're in good shape because he reportedly can really bend and can really move for an offensive lineman. So I'm excited about that. But we will see. We will see. All right, moving on. We'll talk about Oklahoma at Michigan. So for SP Plus, Oklahoma's ranked 12th overall with the 27th ranked offense and the number 10 top 10 ranked defense. Michigan just 2 behind them at 14th overall with the 20th ranked offense and the 13th ranked defense. So, I know it's SP Plus, man. I know Michigan's offense. To me, saying Michigan should have the 20th best offense in the country, I think is a little crazy. I think that's a little crazy of SP Plus. And like one of the things is with Bill Connolly is a lot of that factors in recruiting rankings also, So I don't think it's a sure thing that not Minnesota. I don't think it's a sure thing that Michigan's going to be that good on offense. But my question for this game, Luscion, is how much better is John Mateer than he was last year? Because we know Oklahoma, they have some playmakers. They have Isaiah Satania. They have Xavier Robinson at running back, Torrey Blaylock. They got an experienced transfer. Some other guys. They have Elijah Thomas is supposed to break out at receiver. And then Michigan, though, is Bryce Underwood. Can he take the next step? And does Michigan have any receivers that scare you? Is it Channing Goodwin? Is it Jamar Browder? Is it somebody else? I don't know. And then, they lost Justice Haynes. So they need 2026's top ranked running back, Savion Hyder, I think, to come in and be it from day one if Michigan's going to take a step. This is really interesting to me, Luscion, because I was underwhelmed with Bryce Underwood last year. I think for the number 1 recruit in the country, actually, like the best true freshman quarterback in the Big Ten was not Bryce Underwood at Michigan. It was Malik Washington at Maryland. Because Bryce Underwood was more inconsistent and he didn't flash as much upside. But Michigan was also really bad at receiver. And they were coached by Sharon Moore, who was maybe not the most stable guy, to put it charitably. So Kyle Whittingham comes in. My first thought with Kyle Whittingham is that he's very similar to Michigan, that he wants to run the ball and play defense. But Whittingham has also had a lot of success developing dual threat QBs. He had Tyler Huntley, who played in the NFL for a while, and he's had some guys who could ball, at quarterback. So
those guys could throw.
Yeah. The question is and Mateer was a running quarterback who at times later in the year showed his limitations as a passer. So I honestly think this game to me comes down to both these schools can play defense, at the highest level. I think they're both going to run the ball just fine. Who's gotten better as a passer, John Mateer or Bryce Underwood? And I think that's, if you can tell me who's improved more, I can tell you who's going to win this game. But I really have a hard time picking this game. And I do think SP Plus is way, way too high on Michigan's offense. So Luscion, what do you think? What do you think about this one?
I'm taking the Sooners in this one. Just because I think it's more of the fact, can Michigan's corners stay with Oklahoma's lengthy size at receiver and speed at receiver?
Right.
They got some guys that can flat out ball. And I know everyone talks about Mateer not being able to complete passes, but he was absolutely, his first year at SEC football was rough. He got his ass kicked and he played hurt a lot. So I think that has a lot to do with his success and being able to. I know a lot of people aren't high on him, but a former Oklahoma quarterback, Baker Mayfield, talked about the difficulties in playing hurt, how you're not able to do what you know you can do to be successful. And I think him being healthy played a lot into it. But on the other side, if we're going to talk about Bryce Underwood, there was a mechanical issue when it came to how he threw the football. And I'm not sure if Michigan has the ingenuity to produce an offense that's going to be able to deal with a Brett Venables-led pass rush that's going to be physical with your offensive line. Like, this is not going to be a 2 or 3 300-pound guy defensive line. They're going to have 300-pounders throughout it, and they're going to send multiple lines at you. And I just don't see Michigan having the offensive fortitude to withstand that for 4 quarters. And on the other side, if Oklahoma gets going, it ain't going to be pretty for Michigan. And I don't think Michigan has the passing game if they get behind to come back. And they're not going to run all over Oklahoma. I'm sorry to tell Michigan fans, you're not running all over Oklahoma.
The other thing about Brent Venables is that he's one of the best at showing you one coverage before the snap and then morphing into another coverage after the snap. And honestly, that's my fear with Bryce Underwood. Is he going to be able to get Michigan into the right plays? Is he going to be able to read the defense correctly, or is he going to throw a pick 6 because he thought they were in a cover 2 and they were playing cover 4? You know, if you're not
a smart quarterback, and I'm not saying Bryce Underwood's not smart. When I say smart, I mean like seasoned, like you know, like you can read disguises. And I'm not sure his development is to that level yet. To what you're saying, to piggyback, I think that's where he's going to be able to just wreak all sorts of havoc on that second-year quarterback. Plus, all the hype behind the game. There's going to be all the pressure on him. There's going to be absolutely no pressure on Oklahoma.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm with you as far as like what you just said about season. You know, I think I just trust the veteran over Underwood at this point. I think Mateer has a little bit more experience where I just trust him to be able to manage the game better than Bryce Underwood. Obviously, we could see if that changes this year. Maybe he'll surprise us, but I think the lack of experience will have a lot to say as well, as far as how the offenses ran. And, you know, as of last year, it seemed like Bryce Underwood was just really, really raw, you know, which is so understandable.
Raw. Yeah, I mean, he's a true freshman in the Big Ten.
But I you know,
not for being the number one player in the class.
I know.
Sorry,
he does. Yeah, he a $10 million mistake? Is the question.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, like we can make that excuse this year to a point. I don't think it's necessarily fully excusable.
No, he's got to be able to ball by this year.
But if he doesn't this year, well, then it's.
Justin Fields was ready by year 2. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you got to be like, you got your freshman year to be like, okay, whatever. But like by year 2, if you're that highly rated a recruit, like you have all those physical tools, by year 2, you got to be able to ball. You got to be ready.
I'll give you a good example of a number one player in the class to how he contribute that. Bryce Young, his sophomore year, he won the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah.
Is Bryce Underwood even in that conversation of a thrower, of a blitz reader? Like, he does not understand the type of blitzes he's about to see from these Sooners. Like, he's gonna have a 225-pound safety in his face, like, and unless he gets bigger, that's gonna play into a factor too, because Oklahoma's got some. I mean, in the SEC, you get 6'2", 6'4" corners like that. When they hit you, you're gonna feel it, and I'm not sure he's gonna.
Well, and I'm just not convinced Michigan fixed its receiver problem.
I know.
So I've also got Oklahoma in this game because I think Kyle Whittingham needed to go. You know what Michigan should have done? They should have gone down the road to East Lansing and gotten Nick Marsh before Kurt Signetti did.
Yep.
And offered him a bag.
They should have gotten anybody.
They got somebody. But I'm just saying, you had a guy
Cam
in
Coleman,
state.
somebody.
Cam Coleman's at Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's there's a bunch of guys that I'm like, is Michigan gonna go for anybody? Like, even in recruiting, like, who did they get at receiver? Like,
Yeah.
Do they have a secret that we don't know about that is just going to miraculously come on and just like,
Yeah,
John and I call that the Jared Abradaris. When Wisconsin had no receivers at all, and then Brett Bielema was like, we got this walk-on. And then the next thing I know, he's torching Ohio State like it's his job, and he's just this white kid from nowhere who's just faster than everybody else for some reason. So, like, that's the question. Is there a Jared Abradaris hiding on the roster? And I don't know. Michigan's a high-profile program. I feel like if there was, we would know about it by now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Okay, here's the thing. He hasn't enrolled yet. I got this all planned out in my head. I just figured it out. They have him enrolling in summer classes so nobody gets film on him. And then that first game, he's going to just absolutely torch people.
Yeah.
He's going to be like 6'4", 215, came from like Rhode Island State.
Like in 21 Jump Street where Channing Tatum is suddenly a superstar wide receiver at the little college.
Right. It's going to be something along those lines where it's going to be like, listen, we looked into Michigan's receiver.
He went to like Utah Tech.
Right.
Whittingham got some guy from you. He was like from like the fourth school in Utah or something.
Hey, Connor Stallions right now is going through everyone's spring tape trying to find Michigan a star wide receiver right freaking now.
You know he is.
Right freaking
And they're not even paying him is the crazy part. He's just doing it for the love of the game.
Yeah.
No, he's still getting paid.
Emails that no one's responding to.
No, he's still getting paid. That was part of his severance package. He still gets paid for the next decade.
Wait, shut up. Really?
I'm just saying there's been words on the street about that. He's still getting paid from people that
so
were
funny
involved.
If he was still on payroll, that would be wild.
Oh, in some offshore company that's owned by a subsidiary, like he's definitely getting paid by somebody.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to say that I'm going to give us it's our show, John. So I'm going to say we beat Mississippi State, and I'm going to say Oklahoma beats Michigan.
Yeah.
So for the rubber match, we have the highest ranked, most high. I would call this maybe arguably the biggest non-conference game of the year of anybody. We have the SP Plus rated now, number 1 overall Ohio State, with the number 2 offense and the number 1 defense going to Austin to take on Texas, whom SP Plus has ranked 6th overall with the 7th offense and the 8th defense. Now, I know, Luscion, you're saying 7th offense for Texas. That's not nearly high enough, right? I know that's what you're saying. That's what you're thinking. And I'm probably with you. So now we've got the 2026 Texas Longhorns offense. Arch Manning obviously did not live up to expectations early in the season, but got better and better later in the year, and late in the year showed some really good stuff, I think, towards the end down the stretch. But now they have wide receiver Cam Coleman, and and they have some freaks on the offensive line. They have Hollywood Smothers and Ryan Wingo, and they have a lot of guys who can ball. So, and then on Ohio State, they just have, Carson Hinsman up front and Austin Saraveld. They have Julian Sayin coming back after a really promising redshirt freshman year. And they've got, Bo Jackson, Isaiah West, and obviously Jeremiah Smith is the best receiver in college football, in my opinion. And he's 6'4". And son of NFL player Chris Henry Jr. is reportedly 6'5" and ready to take the world by storm. So Ohio State going to be absolutely terrifying at wide receiver. Texas is going to be terrifying at wide receiver. Both these schools recruit at the very top of college football, and I think this is as big as it gets. I think the winner of this game is going to be the number 1 team in college football for the next several weeks after this game. Luscion, I see you've got an interesting expression on your face. He's got kind of a grimace, folks. It looks like I just stepped on his toe.
Yep.
So, Luscion, tell me what you're thinking, man.
I agreed with you up until what you said about the winner being number 1 for the next couple weeks, because
You don't think so? Okay.
It depending on who wins the game, in my opinion.
Okay.
If Ohio State wins the game, then yes, they're going to be the number 1 football team. But I don't think if Texas wins, they're going to be I just no, they're not going to be. Texas has got really tough schedule. They got to play a lot of people on the road, and I think Arch Manning not being playing Ohio State in Texas is a different story because they're going to have that Texas magic.
Oh yeah,
I know
McConaughey's going to be on the sideline with the flag.
Yeah, I mean,
going
and
crazy.
then Glenn Powell will be there, like in his cowboy hat. Like they're going to have all that nostalgia Texas bull crap that Texas is going to have.
And it's going to be a night game. You know it is.
You know what? I don't think it is.
You think it's going to be big noon? You think they're going to big
noon them? I think it's high noon.
Oh,
and that's
an advantage for Ohio State.
I don't think so this year.
Really?
I don't think so this year. I think it works in the opposite way because Ohio State was more of a upperclassman-led defense, and you lost a lot of those guys.
Okay.
Whereas Texas was the younger team. Now the script is flipped.
Yeah.
And you have Arch Manning having supposedly a better wide receiver in Cam Coleman. You have a little bit better of an offensive line. I think that pays dividends, and I think if Texas plays Ohio State early, they get them.
Okay, we got Texas winning.
But if Ohio State plays Texas later, I think Ohio State is going to get them because I think they're more talented at what I would call the highlighter positions. I think Texas's secondary is inferior to Ohio State's passing offense, whereas Ohio State's running game is inferior to Texas's defensive line, and I think that will also be a factor. But I think ultimately, later on in the day, Texas's defense will be more susceptible to an Ohio State air attack.
Okay. Well, if it's a noon game, the Ohio State fans will have one more reason to get mad and be angry at Tony Petitti for not only playing at noon but losing at noon. They're going to be upset about
that. That's what I'm hoping for because I live in Columbus and there's just nothing better on a Monday morning than man. I hate that. It's just like.
I was gonna say it must be an interesting being an Alabama fan in Columbus, Ohio, because Columbus is such an everything's geared towards Ohio State.
Well, it's lucky I'm a very large individual because they don't say absolutely anything to me when they see a man in my stature in Alabama together. They're just like, oh, okay, man, roll Tide. But I do see a lot of other fans that get treated like I've been in restaurants in a Chipotle where I watched them get their food made and it was slopped together because they had a Michigan get up on Saturday. And I'm just like, the hate is so real in Columbus, Ohio.
Dude, I gotta tell you, Luscion unfortunately made the drive to go watch Minnesota play at Iowa last year. We don't have to talk about how the game went, but my dad and I went, and yeah, I do too, unfortunately. At least, the first 3 quarters before I left. But we were watching ball in a bar before the game, right? And I was like, hey, could you put on the Nebraska Northwestern game? And the guy's like, oh, sorry, like I can't change the channel, blah, 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 whatever. And then like 15 minutes later, a group of Nebraska fans walk up to him. And like he saw when I walked in, it was my dad and me. And they said, hey, could you put on the Nebraska game? And he goes, absolutely. And he put it right on. And I said, hey, man, I asked you to put that on 15 minutes ago and you said you couldn't. And he goes, yeah, you're a Gopher fan. Like, I'm not kidding. This really happened. I couldn't, like, at the time, I almost couldn't believe. I was like, wow, the hate it's real.
I mean, you kind of have to respect it.
Oh, yeah.
Because
that level
I'm
of
the same way. If an Auburn fan would have asked me for absolutely anything, no. Tennessee fan, listen, I would help a Tennessee fan out or an Auburn fan out if their house was burning. I'd at least go in and save their family.
Yeah.
Tennessee, you're gonna be lucky if I like don't throw some moonshine on the fire. I absolutely, positively hate that school with a passion.
Tennessee.
With it, I don't even say their names.
Yeah.
I don't even refer to them. I just refer to them as the Orange Trash Man.
Yeah.
Well,
And
I have
you
to,
know,
since
you
you
know.
mentioned them, I do have to bring up. Now, this was before Saban, and John and I are just old enough to remember this, Luscion. I'm not sure if you do or not, but there was a Music City Bowl in 2004.
Oh, I remember.
I
remember.
I remember it for two reasons. One, at the end of the game, the band played Rocky Top. The Gopher band played Rocky Top at the Alabama section, and that was not received well. The Alabama fans were not happy about that. And number two, before the game, they asked Lawrence Maroney, star Minnesota running back. They said, "Hey, that Alabama defense is really tough, highly rated. You know, what are you going to do against such a physically impressive unit?" And he said, "Bama can't hit what they can't catch." And then he went off in the bowl game. So I have to say that because the next time we play, you will probably crush us. But I have that memory. And I hold it dear in my heart.
As of right now, we're undefeated, but we
we'll like to say we're undefeated against Alabama. What we like to say as a Big Ten team.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of Big Ten teams have, like, Indiana has that on us too. You know, they got that. You know, Michigan has it on us. But I will say something that eventually it does come around that you do run into an Alabama team that is about that business.
Oh, yeah.
And I just hope the next time we do play that we have a team that is about their business, because when we are, it is not like playing another football team. If you play a team that knows and understands the definition of joyless murder ball.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think we might get a lot of that back with this team in its suffocating secondary, because we got some dudes. We got one guy. I'm not gonna say his name, but he's the one guy, when he gets off the bus and you see him, you're gonna be like, yeah, he's gonna be a problem.
You're holding out on us? You're not gonna tell us who he is?
He's unknown. He's not a transfer. He's an actual Alabama guy.
He's been
on the roster, but I guarantee you he's gonna be introduced to college football. And when he does, you guys are gonna know exactly. Just remember this conversation.
All right.
Okay.
Just know that
We'll check back with you and see if it's the same guy.
Oh, it trust me, it's gonna be, because he's gonna be the only dude that when you look at our defensive line of monsters, you're gonna be like, what is that?
Okay.
Because I look at him in our defensive line, I'm just like, and Devin Tompkins is a specimen at 298, 6'5", 298. But there's another guy that makes him kind of look tiny.
Wow.
And they're about around the same size, and it's just like, and he's a nose.
Yeah,
that's it. He's gonna be a problem.
And there's the thing, man. When you got those guys inside, that's so nasty. Minnesota, sort of their thing is we have really good defensive ends, and our defensive tackles are less proven. So we're gonna see what we have there in some ways, but our defensive ends are great. So that's gonna be fun. All right, bring us back to Texas Ohio State, because we went a little bit roundabout there. I'm not picking against the Buckeyes in that game, and here's why. I think Ryan Day is a better coach than Steve Sarkisian, full stop. Steve Sarkisian was mediocre at Washington. Then he got fired at USC for reasons that are, whatever. And then he got healthy, and we're all happy that happened. But Steve Sarkisian has still lost big games when he probably shouldn't have. He probably shouldn't have lost to Michael Penix and Washington a couple of years ago. So you're telling me in a prove-it spot in week 2 that Steve Sarkisian's going to take out Ryan Day and Julian Sayin and Jeremiah Smith? Cam Coleman's great. Jeremiah Smith's great too. And other guys are great. I think from what I hear, Chris Henry, 6'4" and 6'5" respectively. They are monsters ready to just ball. And if Brandon Inniss can play at all as a third receiver, Ohio State's going to be just beyond terrifying. So Julian Sayin, not as mobile. So I think that's as arch, and I think that's an advantage for Texas. I think I also just don't believe in Arch. I don't.
Yeah.
Like, I know he's improved. I know he's good. I know he's going to be at the top of everybody's list and whatever. But I need to see him win a big game and be the reason that Texas won a big game before I believe that he can do it.
Yeah.
And I also think that Matt Patricia, man, as defensive coordinator, he's next level. He's a next level guy. He had, you know what he said when he came into Ohio State? He's like, yeah, you guys were great under Jim Knowles or whatever, but we can run a more complex scheme than that. And he proved he could. And I know that there were a lot of veterans and it's early in the year. And I'm not saying Texas isn't going to score points. I don't think it's going to be 14-7 like last year. I think it's going to be a higher scoring blow for blow kind of game, college football, like something like 27-24 or 31-28 or something like that. But yeah, I got to take the Buckeyes, man. They so rarely, and here's the other thing, because of the way the year ended, losing to Indiana and then losing to Miami, I just think this Ohio State team is going to come out breathing fire, ready to like put the world on notice that we're the center of college football again, kind of thing. So that's where I'm at on it. John, what do you think? Break the tie one way or the other.
I'm also going to go with the Buckeyes. I mean, I do think it's going to be a close game. I don't think it's going to be like last year. I do think, I agree that Manning is going to come out looking better, but I still just something about him last year, man. Like, even though when he improved throughout the season, I don't have faith. I don't have faith that he's going to be lighting the world on fire like everybody's been touting him to for the last number of years, even before he even entered college football. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. Obviously, he's got the money, he's got the resources, he's got all the connections to become the next big thing. I just didn't see it there, and so I just trust Julian saying more. I just do. Yeah. I think, and that's where I'm at. So that's where it is for me. Now, I could be proven wrong. I think it could go either way, but I got to pick the Buckeyes in this at this point. Slight edge.
Now
go ahead.
Let me say something. Let me be perfectly clear. Texas will not win this game because of Arch Manning.
Okay.
If you know me and anything I've ever said about Arch Manning, I think he's a phony. I think he's a fake. I think he's an absolute joke on college football. Texas is not going to win the game on the back and the arm of Arch Manning. Texas is going to win the game on their defense, their turnovers, and their run game.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's how you beat Ohio State. You punch them in the mouth.
Yep.
That is how you beat Ohio State.
Because they're going to have a complicated defense, and Arch Manning is not the type of quarterback that's going to be able to dissect what is coming at him. Now, I think where Sark is going to be able to outmaneuver is I think he out-chess matches Ohio State's offensive coordinator, which will eventually allow him to win the game, because Sark is at least smart enough to know that going blow for blow with a team like Ohio State is not going to be successful. He's going to have to play time of possession. He's going to have to play smart, and he's going to have to be methodical. And I think Sark has that ability to be more methodically scheming than Ohio State's offensive coordinator does. Yeah. And that's another reason why I feel that Texas will eventually win this game. Now, I hate the Manning family, because obviously Tennessee, and I will always hate that. So I'm not supporting Arch when I say I'm giving Texas the edge. I'm giving Texas the edge based off their defense and their running game, not their passing game in any way, shape, or form, because Cam Coleman didn't do shit against us. Right. So as far as I'm concerned, adding him to in Ohio State secondary, they might not be as tall and as big as our secondary is, but they got the guys that can lock him down. So I don't think that the addition of Cam Coleman is going to do anything. That's why I don't think their passing game is going to be what's going to undo Ohio State. I think Texas's running game is what's going to undo Ohio State.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I respect that. Cool.
All right, Luscion, we've had you longer than we anticipated, so I know we got to get out of here. But maybe on the way out, last topic, if it's cool, we could talk about.
Oh, you're good, man. I'm good.
Do you think it would be a good idea or a bad idea to have an annual Big Ten SEC challenge where it would be all the, obviously right now it's 16 and 18 teams, so it couldn't be everybody, but it would be, six, however many teams there are that you have 16 teams, and try to seed them going into each year. So like you'd try to have, the most balanced games you have and have a legit, like they have in basketball, right? In basketball, they have like, oh, it's the Big Ten ACC Challenge. And all, and most of the Big Ten teams play ACC teams. And then everyone talks about which conference is better. Do you think that would be a good thing or a bad thing for college football?
I think it's going to depend on who you ask.
Sure.
I think from a fan standpoint, I think it would be a fantastic thing for some fans to see that. In speaking semantically, in theory, it's a good idea. But what people don't understand is the state of these players and how these players think. They don't give a shit about that type of thing in this day and age. They're not worried about proving themselves against the Big Ten or the SEC or vice versa. They're out chasing the bag, as they call it, and a natty. So I don't think you would get the level of competition that you would think you would get in this challenge. So in my opinion, in theory, it's a great idea if it had happened 10 years ago with that era of players that actually had pride for their conference and their team. I think a lot of that NIL has watered a lot of that conference pride down. So I don't think the SEC Big Ten Challenge would mean enough to the players to where to the point that it would actually be a bloodthirsty match like you would have gotten if you put it back like 10, 15 years ago.
Okay, that's really interesting. John, what do you think?
No, I actually really like that take a lot. And I got to agree. I think it is. It's a different era. It where a lot of that hatred or the rivalry comes from is strictly from Twitter handles and people like that's where it
not
is.
what the teams are talking about.
Yeah, I don't think you're right. I think you're right. I don't think that it's the players. I don't think it's even the coaches. I don't think it's a lot of that stuff. If somebody says it's here or there, and it's maybe just just to kind of turn the knife a little bit here or there, but nobody's serious about it. I don't think anyone is looking at it. Any coach anywhere in either conference is looking at it like that. Obviously, it could be fun, could be entertaining, just like it is for basketball. When you see that happening, like it's kind of cool for the fans. But I think that's where it ends. Like you said, I think it ends with the fans having fun, which is actually, kind of nice. I mean, I in a way like that, they're doing something that the fans will be interested in and will be engaged in and can, get excited about, because they don't do that enough, unfortunately, nowadays. It is more about the networks and all that, but this kind of works both ways for the networks and for the fans. But but overall, I think as far as just the programs, the conferences, really, when it comes down to it, I don't think they really care. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, and I think it's I'm with you guys, but for a different reason. And I just think that we need, for the sport to be healthy, we need the whole country to feel invested in it. And if you have a Big Ten SEC challenge, how are the ACC and the Big 12 going to get good out of conference games? They're not, is what that's going to happen. They're not going to get good out of conference games. And I think you need that because you need those fan bases. You don't want, Iowa State and Kansas and Oklahoma State and Texas Tech to shut off because they don't care anymore. You know what I mean? About where the sport is headed and about who's winning at the highest level and all that kind of stuff. That's honestly, I think that was the problem with the 4-team playoff. The 4-team playoff before NIL, it was the same 6 or 7 teams in contention every year. It was Ohio State and Alabama and Georgia and Clemson and
LSU and
LSU and Oklahoma. And every year, it was every year. And Oregon occasionally and, whatever. But like, it was just, a handful of teams most of the time. And I think that was really bad for college football. I think NIL and parity has been good for college football. And the last thing I want to see is, the schools in the ACC or the Big 12 feel like they're not invested in the whole product, in the whole sport anymore. So, yeah.
Cool.
Oh, one more thing I wanted to add to that. I forgot in my notes I wanted to make. Since they took away the whole importance of bowl games, I think it's very, very important that a conference pride is developed. And I think if you do an SEC Big Ten challenge, you're going to take more away from that conference pride in playing those games. I think if you're going to eliminate bowl season like they have with this playoff, which I have no problem doing, but you're also taking away a lot of football at a time of year where everybody is wanting to watch football because you're having the playoffs. So you obviously have to shift coverage to that. But I think that conference pride should be something that should be highlighted across college football, not just in the Big Ten, the SEC.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And that's what we love about college football is the regional nature of college football, right? Like, what is one of my favorite games? I'll just say off the top of my head, and we could all pick one and go around. I love the Holy War, man. I love Utah, BYU. I always have. I like the culture difference of the hardcore Mormons who don't have sex going to BYU and the kids who are trying to escape their Mormon backgrounds going to Utah, and the clash of that, of the cultures and the ideas and the whatever. And I had a buddy who went to Utah who really got me into that rivalry. And it's like, I don't want to lose that, right? I don't want to lose those fun games. I think about that, the fun rivalry games from around the country that, that we all get invested in, that we don't have anything. Like, I love watching the Egg Bowl every year, man.
Yeah.
I can still remember 5 or 6 years ago when you thought Ole Miss had the egg, or was tying up the Egg Bowl, and they had a touchdown. And after the touchdown, when all they need is an extra point to tie the game and push it into overtime, and the guy who scored got down on all fours, put his leg up and pretended to pee like a dog, got a 15-yard penalty, and then they missed the extra point because of the penalty, and they lost. And it's like, you can't, that's I don't want to lose any of that aspect of the pageantry of college football. I don't want to lose any of the regionality. I don't want to lose the rivalries. We already have lost some of it, obviously.
Yeah.
Especially with the Pac-12 dissipating. That was sad. But, I think I want to keep as much of it as we have left, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Luscion, thank you. You have been so generous with your time, man. Say once again where we can, where people can find your work, and I will have a description. I will have a link in the comments for you, for all our listeners, so that they can also subscribe and check out your stuff.
It is. I got to look at it because it's new, but it's ABTC_net SP00.
Okay.
That would
and we will have it, Luscion. You send me a link, and I will make sure to put it in the description when we put this up.
Definitely.
All right. Well, this was really fun, gentlemen. I loved having an SEC.
Yeah, thanks
Big
for having
Ten.
me, man.
Oh,
Yeah,
thanks
awesome.
so much for coming on, Luscion.
Yeah, we'll have to do this again. This was great.
Anytime, let me know. I'm down.
Yeah, we will. We will. Maybe we'll bring you back in the preseason. We could do a predictions episode and say,
I'd love that.
Figure out what we think is going to happen across the whole world of college football, and not just, like you said, the Big Ten and the SEC, although the Big Ten and the SEC was the subject of this episode. So thanks so much, everyone, for listening. If you are still here in minute 93 of an April college football podcast, you are my hero, and I love you desperately. So thanks for joining us, everybody. John, anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Yeah, if you want to find We Live for Saturday, you can find us on you can find us here on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Podcast Addict. You can find us on Twitter at We Live for B1GSat. You can find Mike at Alibaba26 and me, John, at Norwegian Gopher. And you can email us, We Live for Saturday, B1G@gmail.com. Please like, subscribe, follow, tweet, retweet, all that good stuff.
All right. Well, thanks so much for rocking with us, and we will see you in the next one. We'll probably be back in about a week with another podcast. Take it easy, everybody.